Hello and welcome to the show today. We're joined by a dynamic author and money mindfulness coach who will be talking about her new book. That's all coming up on the show. Before we welcome today's guest, while preparing for this show and our guest today, I was discussing with a colleague on how some ethnic minority communities band together in building wealth, whether you look to the Jewish communities or the South Asian and Middle Eastern communities. They have their own banks, they have their own lending systems that facilitate the business creation and growth. Their businesses not only cater to Afro-Caribbeans, whether it is specialized foods or hair treatments, but cater to their own ethnic groups. The question becomes, why does it seem that we are unable to do the same? And how do we as communities emulate the same to ensure that we empower and support our monetary endeavors? I'd like to hear from you, our audience. Comment below and let us know your views and opinions. Today our guest on the show is Lavinia D. Osbourne, CEO and Director of Butterfly Wealth Creation and author of the little book of Money Mindfulness. Welcome to the show, Lavinia. But before we really get into the question, for our audience, tell us about your book, of the little book of Money Mindfulness.
So the little book of Money Mindfulness is a project that's very close to my heart. It touches on 4 key elements of money that underpins money mindfulness. Yes. So the first one is money mindset, how we think and our beliefs around money and how that obviously affects our relationship with money. Because money mindfulness is ultimately looking at our relationship with money. And I just want to add a point here, because too many times financial advisors and money coaches, they talk about creating money or just mindset, but let's talk about our relationship with money, because it's quite deep and it does have an effect on so many various areas of our life, because it looks at financial self-care as well, financial well-being. So that ultimately is what the book is about, financial well-being. So you being well in your being, irrelevant of your financial status.
That's very interesting. So you're talking about, why did you say little book?
The little
it's not
book.
Like big to me.
Yeah. It's a little book that has a big impact.
Right.
Yeah. And the reason why I call it the little book of money mindfulness, because it's a new concept, or it's a new concept to people who are not accustomed to this field.
Yes.
And you don't want to overwhelm them. There's so much going on. Yes. You want something that's easy to fit into there. I wanted to produce something, create something that's easy for them to put in their bag. They can open it up, they're engaged in it. So like I said, it's little, but it's impactful. So, sorry, just to go back. So there's the 4 elements: money mindset, and then you've got money mastery. Money mastery is looking at how you react to financial situations and circumstances. So it's looking at emotional intelligence, but from a financial angle or financial situation. Money management, so that looks at the normal elements that most people are accustomed with money management. So debt, savings, investing, planning and budgeting. And then money mission is looking at what is it that you want your money to represent in the world? Or what is it that you want to represent to the world, and how are you going to use your money to underpin that objective?
That's very interesting. And you talk about the relationship. I like that you talk about the relationship with money, because it is more than just making money, as you said. And most persons now are talking about, let's make money, you can be rich, you can be a multimillionaire. I mean, people are now winning the lottery, and what happens next?
They lose it. Yeah. Exactly. And that's because there is an undercurrent of not maybe feeling worthy, or just not having the understanding and the knowledge. And so, yes, understanding one's relationship with money is very important, and especially how you feel about money, because you can, who says that you want to be a millionaire? And even if you're a millionaire, you're going to be happy. I think what most people want in this world is to be happy.
And to be comfortable.
And to be comfortable and satisfied and to be content, but to be happy. And so being a millionaire, that doesn't mean happiness for maybe you, but it might mean happiness for somebody else.
So it's all relative to a certain extent.
Of course, it's
relative. And that's
relative.
where the relationship factor comes in.
And that's where the relationship factor comes in.
You strongly advocate that financial strength and independence is drawn from the home, Please tell us more about that and how your company goes about delivering your message.
Well, I really believe in intergenerational wealth. Yes, that is the right word, intergenerational wealth. Because our children are our future and we are their present. Many times when I speak to my clients about their relationship with money and their thoughts and feelings behind it and their beliefs about it, it always goes back to what they were taught at home. So we are in a more aware and information-based environment, society, times even, you know. And so if this is something we're aware of, then let's start setting the example and start imparting the right education and the right examples for our children so they don't grow up with the same limiting beliefs that some of us as adults have grown up with.
So therefore, what we're saying is that the beliefs that many of us grew up on, we've got to actually change or really assess them based on what we're giving back to our children. I'll give you an example. Go and get a job, 9 to 5, and work and get a pension. That's it. That's what our parents normally would say. What do we say now to young people?
We say to them that there are many different ways of creating wealth and creating happiness. And that if, say, your child doesn't want to go to university, it's not the end all and be all, because a lot of people are going to university and it has been recorded that most people who leave university, they don't take on a job in the same field in which they studied anyways. I think going to university is a great life experience, but you have to also think of the bigger picture. You're going to come out with how much debt? How is that debt going to affect you? How is that debt going to move you forward? And so as adults, parents, we have to put that to our children and make our children not feel like they are not worthy or they're not making us proud if they choose not to go the university route, for example.
It's interesting. We have had on the show different coaches, and you're a money mindfulness coach?
I'm a money mindfulness financial empowerment coach.
Fantastic, good. Now, break that down for me to a certain extent, and what actually drove you, Lavinia, to be that coach factor? Because you could have said you're a lifestyle coach, or is it lifestyle coach?
Yeah, you could lifestyle coach.
But you're actually more on a financial level.
Yes, I am.
What's a driving factor as a young lady?
Okay, well, you asked me 3 questions. The first one is, what exactly is a money mindfulness coach, financial empowerment coach? And then what is a driving factor and how did I come to be? So to answer the first element of the question, is basically, as I touched on it just a moment ago, it's about financial well-being. When you look at a general list of well-being, we hear emotional well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being, but we never hear anyone talking about financial well-being. And if you think about it, finances affect so many areas of individual people's lives. It affects relationships. We make decisions because of finances. We take a job perhaps that we don't like, but we need the money because of finances. And then that has a knock-on effect. And if you are in a place of dis-ease, then that can manifest disease in one's life in one form or another. It could be mental, it could be physical, but our body does communicate with us to say something is unbalanced. And in the areas of money and finance, that's one area where people are very severely unbalanced, but they just ignore it because this is what I have to do in order to survive, to work. And for some people, there doesn't seem to be any alternative because they haven't been told or shown or have anybody to guide them as beings, because my approach is very holistic. And what I mean by holistic, it's not just about the money, it's about you as a person. So just because you work a job you don't like doesn't mean that you don't have a fulfilling life. So you could do things outside of work that gives you fulfillment. But the point is that most of us spend most of our waking hours at work. And if you're unhappy doing a job that you're doing just for the monetary purposes, even though you might have loved the job at the beginning, yeah? But after a while, politics set in and what have you, and it becomes laborious, or there's politics, or there's stress, or there's bullying, or whatever the case may be, or there's no progression, so you become stagnated and frustrated with your situation at work. But you don't know how to change it because it's like, well, I need to work, I need this job, it pays me well. Or you could be traveling long hours, or you could be working long hours, and you do it because, well, the money's good. Right. But how long is that the factor over your health? And I think, especially when you're hitting mid-30s, going into your early 40s, mid-40s, these questions... 20s, so I'm okay. Me too. You start asking these questions to yourself, and your why can be very different from the why that you had when you first started the job, or even 2-3 years ago. Your why can be different. Ill health can set in, or maybe a death of a close family member, but maybe wake you up and you think, you know what, things have to be different. I need to do things differently. So therefore, there's got to be a re-evaluating process then of a person's mind, and that is where that relationship factor kicks in. Exactly. I mean, we are evolving beings. As human beings, we're evolving beings. And so it's a question of listening to ourselves, listening to our spirit, listening to our intuition. We told our audience that we have a money expert coming on the show, and we have some great questions from the audience. Let's have a look at some now. Lavinia, Angela from our YouTube channel asked this question. I have a great idea to start up a business and form a partnership with my sister. We have agreed to invest equal amounts. However, we have already come to a misunderstanding on how we spend the initial capital. What would you advise? Well, the first thing is they need to sit down and create a business plan. Because once they've created a business plan, then they have a structure, a process to move forward with. So it's all well and good wanting to come together and having the capital, but it's a question of what you do with it. And so the business plan will detail what exactly they are going to do with it. So if they can't agree in that moment, in that initial moment, then perhaps they should think about not going into business together. Because, you know, there's not just the factor of the business, but you are sisters and it's family, and this always has a knock-on effect on everybody else. A bit like friends as well. Yeah, exactly. So it's a question of having the same vision, writing down that vision, agreeing how that vision is going to be implemented, and sticking to it. Once it's down and agreed and signed, then you should be able to move forward. But if you can't, then you have to reevaluate and perhaps walk away. So therefore, there are two key points right there. One, agreeing together, but also to have the vision written down properly. In a business plan. In a business plan. Yeah, especially because there's two of you, so you can go back and say, well, we both agreed, this is what we will do. Okay. We'll be going for a short break, and when we get back, Lavinia will be answering more questions from our audience on Money 7 wealth management and creation. One of the things I like to talk about is staying in the comfort zone. So when you stay in the comfort zone, you actually won't achieve that desired results. There's got to be some sacrifice. When you make that sacrifice, it creates a fundamental change. So as we say, we go with the flow, or I switch it around by saying, don't go with the flow, make that sacrifice, and don't stay in that comfort zone, because that is where you'll see that fundamental change. Welcome back to the show. And we have Lavinia Osbourne answering questions from our audience via social media. But before we do that, I want to go back to the initial statement which I started the show with. Lavinia, do you think that Afro-Caribbeans band together in creating wealth? I agree within context. Okay, and the reason why I state that, because I think it's very different for the Caribbean people back home. What I see from the Caribbean people back home, they seem to work together. Because, you know... back home in the Caribbean. Back home in the Caribbean. Right. Here in the UK, and this is my experience, so my opinion is based on my experience. Other people may have a different opinion based on their experience, of course. So my experience is that I think that we're very good at, you know, with the partner, coming together and do the partner. But we're missing just a little trick, And that trick is that we don't allow that money to work for us. They're saving the money and it not making any interest.
Right.
And then
underneath the bed.
Sorry? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You know, and as we know, the partner works is that everybody puts a hand
But
in.
can I just stop there? The person who is the banker,
Yeah.
are they really just letting that money stay underneath their bed or in the bank and not doing anything? Do we know that there? Is it there?
I don't know.
That's
I don't know the
question I always
answer.
wondered.
Yeah, I think a lot of people wonder that. But the honest to God truth, I don't know, because they could be making interest on your money. You know? You know? But yes, so the partner is a great concept of where the Afro-Caribbean or have come together. I think that's a perfect example. And I think that when Afro-Caribbeans first came to this country, because of the level of racism and the situation in which they were faced, they had, the operative word being had, to band together in order to help each other. You don't see that as much anymore. And so I think that is where we have missed the trick, because you do see that still continuing between the Asian, the Jewish, and even the new Eastern European communities coming over. The Polish help the Polish, the Albanians help each other, the Turkish help each other, but we seem to just be at loggerheads. And one of the reasons I think, it's not even loggerheads, but we're just blasé about our situation, indifferent. And I think it's just, some people will probably send me death threats after this, but I just think that our level of standards have dropped of what we expect for ourselves and what we expect from our families. In regards to my grandmother, she came here as an immigrant from the Caribbean, and she was a lady, you know, and she was married, her and her husband, or her husband at the time, bought property, and that was passed down, or then he sold it, and then there was wealth. But then because my grandmother, my grandfather passed, but because my grandmother didn't know how to handle money, that went through her hand, yeah? So there's, to me, I think our standards have dropped in the Afro-Caribbean communities in regards to creating wealth for our family and then also within the community. And then also there is a lack of financial education, but there also seems to be a despondency about it, like it's not important.
If we compare that then with the African community, the Africans who are coming over now in droves, are they also stepping up into that level with the Asians and the Jews?
In my opinion, yes. Right. Most of the events that I've been to where, you know, it's been quite African orientated in networking and business, I see them really networking and helping each other and taking what they do here back home and helping each other. Maybe not, you know, I'm not from Nigeria, but just from what I've seen and heard, and then they're taking the expertise from here and going back to Nigeria, so they're back and forth. Whereas I'm not really seeing that within the Afro-Caribbean community, one on a business level here, or even taking those business skills back to Jamaica to create something there.
Well, based on your experience then, and your understanding, and if I'm to pick and get a couple nuggets for our viewers, what would you say then is the key trick or the key nugget which is needed to take it to the next level for the Afro-Caribbean community? And while I'm saying that, I know that these things are maybe said so many times, you know, but what would you say is the key trick or the key nugget which is needed for the Afro-Caribbean community to take it to the next level and to even go back to where they came from and to move further? That's a mouthful of things.
Well, some people will argue, and I do understand the arguments to say that just because two people are married doesn't make a better home. But I do think there needs to be more stability within the family home, two parents bringing up the children. There has to be a higher level of self-respect for oneself and for each other. Because I do believe that if you look at the Jewish communities and you look at the Asian communities, they get married to each other. And I just want to say that I'm born and bred here. I've been in interracial relationships. So I'm never going to dismiss anybody who falls in love with someone who is not, you know, from the Afro-Caribbean or black. But the foundation for the Afro-Caribbean has to go back to being a family, a structured family, and respecting that family. So that's number one.
Family
Number
structure,
two, number two, education, but not education in the sense of school education, but financial education.
Yes.
Looking at how you can make your money work harder for you. Looking at the interest rates that you get in your savings account. Looking at, instead of doing a partner, perhaps getting together a group of like-minded individuals who are willing to put that money together and then put it in an investment. So that they can develop them, because the only way you're going to learn is by doing. And yes, that is a risk, but in taking that risk, there's also rewards. You know, it's a journey. And by doing that, it's setting the example for the young children. Like I said, children are our future, we are their present. And the other thing I really want to talk about as well is books. Too many times when you go into an Afro-Caribbean family, you see big TVs. And they say the bigger the TV, the smaller the bank account.
The emptier the mindset.
Yeah, and the emptier the mindset, the smaller the bank account. The more books there are in a household, you know, irrelevant of the household, the more in the bank account, because it's about knowledge and it's about learning, but it's also about implementing it as well.
Good, Lavinia. So what drives you then?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question, especially as we've just been talking about the community. I come from a one-parent background. My mum brought me up, as did my grandmother, for a while, and I just grew up without men being in my environment. And it had a huge effect, not only on the well-being, the emotional well-being of my mum, but on the emotional and financial well-being as a family. And so, as I touched upon, my grandfather had left my grandmother an inheritance from the sale of their home, but that was long before me and my siblings came along and my cousins. And so my grandmother was on benefits, I suppose. She had a pension from the government, but obviously back then it was worth something, you know. But then I saw my auntie being a single parent and her struggles, and my mom being a single parent and her struggles. And I said to myself, I never wanted to be that person. So the only way I knew how to get out was to go to university. And I went to university and I did all the right things, or what I believed to be the right things: get a good education, get a good job, you know, invest in property, because that's what everybody was doing. And I lived abroad for 4 years. So I actually invested, I lived in Barcelona, and I invested in property over there. And I invested in, you know, multiple properties, and I was doing really well. For someone coming from my background, everybody's expectation of me was to be like my mom, be a single parent, live in a council flat. And which is a sad indication of, again, expectations. Where's our standards of?
So we have to go against the flow.
We have to go against the flow, and not only go against the flow, but we need to believe in each other more and encourage each other more, and set an example for each other more. But anyway, so I know one of the things that drove me, that made me so ambitious, was because I was like, I do not want to have a life similar to my mom. And my mom was of the mindset, look at my life, don't follow what I did. So she was very encouraging in that way.
And that was the motivating factor.
And that was that I was motivated, full stop. But my mom encouraging me was even more gave me even more motivation. And I wanted to do things for my grandmother, my aunties, my cousins, because, you know, poverty is not a nice thing. Poverty is not a nice thing. And we should do all that we can to move away from it, in our mindset and in our actions.
And do you think it starts from the mindset first?
Of course it starts from the mindset, because what we conceive and what we believe is what we will achieve. So it does start from the mindset. And I think one of the things that changed me, when I was brought up in the church, and so I always understood the abundance of God. But secondly, I read books about people overcoming, and it was like, well, if they can overcome, then I can as well. And so, like I said, I got into property, and I was the money bags of the family. And then the crash of 2008 came along, and it really hit me in a negative way. But I'm still here, I'm still standing, and God put me on a path which was all about financial, which made me look at financial education. Because I was like, I'm an intelligent person. I speak 3 languages. I've got a master's.
Is Jamaican one of them?
Jamaican is English, is it not? Well, no, I don't speak Patois. I don't speak the dialect of Patois. I won't even try. I don't want to embarrass myself. But I speak 3 languages and a little bit of another language. And like I said, I'm very highly educated and an intelligent person. And the things that I was learning about financial education, I was like, how come this isn't taught at school? And it got a bee in my bonnet that I wanted to share the financial word, the financial word with the world, and help people to spread their financial wings, to create wealth, to preserve it, as in protecting themselves and prospering. Because one of the key ways that you can create intergenerational wealth, which seems to me a number of people in the Afro-Caribbean community don't really look at, because they're, you know, looking to just pay the bills and survive rather than thrive, is insurance. When you have children, one of the first things you should look at is getting a life policy, because if anything happens to you, who's going to pay your funeral bills? And also, even if you do pass, because we all eventually do, 40, 50 years later, at least you're leaving your children some money which they can then utilise to then invest. This is how a lot of Caucasian families have done it. And Jewish families, it's not just passing on businesses, it's making sure that they've got a good life insurance which goes on to the next generation.
And this is John. John emailed this. By the end of each month, I'm always broke. I own a few credit cards, need to pay rent, commuting costs, food, shopping, etc. I've reviewed my monthly finances, but I cannot see what money I can do to reduce my expenditures. I want to avoid getting a loan, but I cannot see any improvement as pay rises out of the question. Lavinia, what do you say to someone like John?
I would say we as humans accumulate a lot of things. And sometimes we don't like to get uncomfortable. And sometimes we need to get uncomfortable in order to remove ourselves or grow out of a situation. This is why we have the term growing pains, yeah? So what I mean by this is that what do you have in and around your house that you no longer use, that has no value to you, or could have value for somebody else? Sometimes when you want to attract newness into your life, you need to make space. So how about doing you've done a review of your money, what about a review of your assets or your things that may have accumulated? Put everything in a car or, in a van, hire a van and go to a jumble sale.
Or review my garage myself, innit?
Do a garage sale, exactly. Do a garage sale. Do you have a spare room? What things do you have? Do you have a parking space that you could rent out to just bring in some extra money? Look around and ask the question, how can I? What can I get rid of? Or what don't I need anymore that can allow me to bring in some extra cash? And then maybe with that extra cash, you can put it into an investment or a savings. Or alternatively, you can invest it into maybe a part-time business, and just look at different ways that you can, number one, create money and then invest it in something to create more. Because it's a habit. These are wealth habits. If you're always thinking, I can't, then you're not going to get anywhere. But if you're thinking, I can, what are the possibilities? Let's have a look at this and start writing down ideas. Or what skill do you have that you could offer to somebody else? It might mean you working 4 hours in the evening and you're going to be tired. But if you set yourself maybe 6 weeks or 6 months to just give it a go and see what you can create, because from one idea can lead to another idea.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that is good for John. Well, listen, one of the questions which I ask our guests at all times is, what is their favorite quote or what is their favorite mantra? And I'd love to hear yours.
Well, I have a number, but one that I like, it's very succinct, and it's progress over perfection. Too many times we get caught up on what other people think about us. And so we think we have to be perfect or we have to act a certain way. That's not really authentic to who we really are. And one of the key things, or one of the beautiful things about being human, is that we make mistakes. But our mistakes, we could turn them into positives by learning from them. We have to make mistakes in order to learn and grow and evolve. So if you're choosing to look at your money, if you're choosing to grow your money, if you're choosing to manifest a better relationship with your money, then you have to be open to the fact that you're going to make mistakes along the way, because it's a journey. So it's about progress. How am I progressing?
Progress over imperfection.
No, progress over perfection.
Over perfection.
Yeah, so it's not about perfection, but it's about progress. So focus on progressing rather than perfection. I know they say practice makes perfect, and within context, I'm using that word again, that is applicable. But when it comes to your life journey, when it comes to evolving yourself from where you're at, if you're not happy where you're at, so personal, financial development, then it is about progress rather than perfection.
It's something powerful you said, and you said about the words that we use.
Yeah.
You know, and may God rest in peace, Muhammad Ali, who passed away today. One of the things Muhammad Ali always says, I'm the greatest.
Yeah.
I'm the best.
Yeah.
And he keeps speaking it.
Yes.
Then he was living it.
Yes.
And he's now it.
Yes.
In death, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's a powerful thing, which we talk about the words that we speak.
Exactly.
Give 3 things now. I don't want you to speak to the camera. And yes, you say you might get attacked. But give 3 things to the Caribbean community to take them to the next level. 3 key nuggets.
As an Afro-Caribbean woman who is proud of the Afro-Caribbean community, proud to be Afro-Caribbean, I would say the 3 key things I would like to see more of, and that I think is going to help us to progress in our personal and financial development as a community and individuals and family as well, are 1, we need to take more self-responsibility of our actions and the choices that we make and the knock-on effects, the consequences of those choices. 2, I think we need to look more at investing, not being afraid to take those steps and not being afraid to fail forward. I love this term, fail forward. As I touched upon with SYLBOURNE just a moment ago, mistakes are part of the human psyche. So let's fail forward in investing so we can improve not only for ourselves, but for the next generation. And number 3, raise our standards. Let's think of being better, doing more, being better so that we can do more and have more for ourselves and also for our community. So those are the 3 key things I'd like to leave with you right now.
Thank you for joining us, Lavinia. And ladies and gentlemen, for more information on Lavinia, Osbourne, and her company, Butterfly Wealth Creation, or any of our past shows, visit our website at SYLBOURNE.com, and please remember to visit, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, SYLBOURNE TV, as well as our other social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you for watching us, and see you next time on the show. For the people in the place to be, my name is Sid, and when you listen to me, hi. Thanks for watching our video. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and share and like, and don't forget to comment, but first subscribe here. Thank you. For the people in the place to be, my name is Sid, and when you listen.
Hi, my name is Lavinia D. Osbourne of Butterfly Wealth Creation, and also the author of the upcoming book, The Little Book of Money Mindfulness. I have just been on the SYLBOURNE Show, and I would like for you to like and subscribe to the channel.